The spring rain falls softly on the overgrown lawns of Linwood Hall, pattering against 110 darkened windows. Inside, water drips through holes in the ceiling, echoing through empty corridors that once rang with the laughter of 100 servants. Dust settles on marble floors imported from Italy. Cobwebs drape the grand staircase where Philadelphia's elite once ascended in silk and diamonds. This palace, 110 rooms sprawling across 33 acres, cost $8 million to build in 1900, the equivalent of $302 million today. It was designed to outlast empires, to shelter generations of Wideners for centuries to come. But the family left. They walked away. And Linwood Hall, America's last great Gilded Age estate, stands frozen in time, a monument to a fortune won through streetcars and mutton and lost to the cold waters of the North Atlantic. April 15th, 1912. 2:20 a.m. The RMS Titanic slips beneath the surface of the sea, taking 1,517 souls with it into the darkness. Among them, George Dunton Widener, son of one of America's richest men, and his 27-year-old son Harry Elkins Widener, a brilliant bibliophile who collected rare books with the passion of kings. In a lifeboat 200 yards away, Eleanor Widener watches her husband and firstborn son disappear forever. She is 48 years old. She survived by rowing through the freezing night. But the fortune built by her father-in-law, a fortune vast enough to pave streets with gold, cannot buy back the dead. The mansion waiting for her in Philadelphia is perfect, pristine, palatial. It will become her cage, her mausoleum, the physical manifestation of everything money can buy and everything it cannot. This is not just a story of an abandoned mansion. This is a story of how a butcher's son became the streetcar king of America, how he built a palace to rival European royalty, how tragedy struck at the height of power, and how, in the end, even the greatest fortune cannot protect against fate. Look closely at the crumbling walls of Linwood Hall. Every crack tells a secret. Every empty room whispers a warning. Nothing lasts forever, not even perfection. But first, we must go back to where it all began. To the bloody streets of Philadelphia during the Civil War. To a young man with callous hands and a hunger that could swallow the world. Peter Arrell Brown Widener was born on November 13th, 1834, in Philadelphia, the son of a German immigrant brickmaker. There was no silver spoon, no trust fund, no family mansion. His childhood home was modest, functional, forgettable. His father laid bricks. His mother kept house. Young Peter attended public school, but poverty cut his education short. At 13, he left school to apprentice in a butcher shop, learning to carve meat with precision, to judge quality with a glance, to haggle with suppliers who could smell desperation. The smell of blood and sawdust became his perfume. The rhythm of the cleaver became his heartbeat. He was 19 when he opened his own butcher shop on Christian Street. It was small. It barely turned a profit. But it was his. Then came the Civil War, and Peter Widener saw what other men could not. Opportunity wrapped in tragedy. While soldiers marched south to die, someone had to feed the Union Army. Someone had to supply tens of thousands of men with beef, pork, mutton. The government was desperate, flush with emergency funds, and willing to pay premium prices for reliable suppliers. Widener secured a contract to supply mutton to federal troops stationed around Philadelphia. It was a gamble. He had to buy livestock on credit, process it quickly, deliver on time or face financial ruin. But Peter Widener was not afraid of blood. He worked 18-hour days, slept 4 hours a night, and by the war's end in 1865, he had cleared $50,000 in profit, the equivalent of $950,000 today. It was a fortune, more money than his father had seen in a lifetime. Peter Widener was not satisfied. Money, he understood, was not an ending. It was a beginning. The streets of Philadelphia were changing. Horse-drawn omnibuses still ruled, but new technology was emerging. The streetcar, pulled by horses along iron rails embedded in the roads. Faster, more efficient, more profitable. Widener saw the future before it arrived. He invested his war profits into streetcar lines, forming partnerships with William Elkins, a butcher-turned-businessman who shared Widener's ruthless ambition. Together, they bought up struggling transit companies, consolidated routes, bribed politicians when necessary, undercut competitors until they bled out. By the 1870s, Widener and Elkins controlled Philadelphia's transit system. Thousands of streetcars carrying millions of passengers annually. The city moved at their command, and every nickel fare flowed into their pockets. But Philadelphia was not enough. Widener's empire expanded. New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. He bought transit companies the way other men bought shoes. His influence reached Washington. His wealth became incalculable. In 1880, he married Hannah Josephine Dutton, and they had 3 children, George Dutton Widener, Joseph Early Widener, and a daughter. Peter built them a mansion at Broad and Girard Avenue in Philadelphia. Elegant, spacious, fit for new American royalty. But Hannah fell ill. Cancer, they whispered. In 1896, she died, leaving Peter devastated. He was 62 years old, one of the richest men in America, and utterly, crushingly alone. His children were grown. His fortune was vast, and he had nowhere to call home that did not echo with her absence. So Peter Widener decided to build a palace. Not just a house. A palace. A monument to everything he had achieved. A symbol of American ambition, carved in limestone and marble. He would call it Linwood Hall, after his granddaughter's middle name, and it would be the greatest private residence in America. Construction began in 1897. The architect was Horace Trumbauer, a 28-year-old prodigy who had never attended architecture school, but possessed a genius for blending neoclassical grandeur with modern convenience. Trumbauer studied European estates, chateaux in France, villas in Italy, palaces in England, and synthesized them into something uniquely American, opulent yet functional, massive yet intimate. The site was 33 acres in Elkins Park, a wealthy suburb north of Philadelphia. The land was flat, surrounded by trees, a blank canvas waiting for transformation. The construction took 3 years and employed over 700 workers. Stonemasons chiseled limestone blocks quarried from Indiana. Italian craftsmen laid terrazzo floors and carved ornamental friezes. French artisans installed stained glass windows depicting mythological scenes. The mansion's frame was steel, modern, fireproof, but the exterior was pure neoclassical revival. Symmetrical facade, massive Corinthian columns, a grand entrance designed to evoke the authority of ancient Rome. The building measured 110,000 square feet, contained 110 rooms, and cost $8 million. $302 million in today's money. To put that in perspective, it would have cost more than building 20 average homes every single day for a year. Let us step inside. Imagine it is 1900, and the mansion has just been completed. You approach the entrance, where twin limestone lions guard the threshold. The front door is 12 feet tall, carved oak reinforced with bronze. A butler in tailored livery opens it with a slight bow. You step inside. The entrance hall is 2 stories high, lit by a crystal chandelier the size of a grand piano. The floor is Italian marble, white Carrara veined with gray, polished to mirror perfection. Your footsteps echo. To your left, a marble staircase curves upward. Its balustrade hand-carved with floral motifs. Oil paintings line the walls. Old masters, purchased by Peter Widener from European estates fallen on hard times. A Rembrandt here, a Van Dyck there. The air smells of fresh roses arranged in porcelain vases imported from China. Follow the butler down the corridor to the art gallery, the crown jewel of Linwood Hall. It spans 90 feet, lit by skylights during the day and electric chandeliers at night. The walls are covered in silk damask, burgundy, and gold, providing the perfect backdrop for Widener's collection. Here hangs Rembrandt's The Mill, one of 14 Rembrandts Widener owned, the largest private collection of Rembrandts in America. There, Raphael's A Small Cooper Madonna, a Renaissance masterpiece. Over 600 paintings in total, each worth a fortune, each chosen with the eye of a man who understood value. Widener did not collect art to impress guests. He collected it because beauty, unlike flesh, does not decay. Because in a world defined by deals and dollars, art was eternal. Next, the ballroom. It can accommodate 1,000 guests. The ceiling is frescoed with clouds and cherubs. The floor is inlaid with geometric patterns of mahogany and maple. At one end, a stage for orchestras. At the other, a marble fireplace large enough to roast an ox. Imagine it filled with Philadelphia's elite. Women in silk gowns, men in white tie and tails, champagne flowing like water, laughter rising to the frescoed ceiling. This was where Widener hosted the city's power brokers, where senators and industrialists gathered, where alliances were forged and fortunes decided. Upstairs, 55 bedrooms, each with its own en-suite bathroom, unheard of luxury in 1900. The master suite occupies the entire east wing. Widener's bedroom features a four-poster bed carved from mahogany, a private sitting room, a walk-in closet the size of most people's bedrooms. His bathroom is marble and gold, heated floors, a porcelain tub large enough for two, running hot water, electric lights. The technology alone costs more than most American homes. Below the mansion, in the basement, an indoor swimming pool lined with tile imported from Turkey, a gymnasium, a bowling alley, a wine cellar stocked with vintages from France and Italy, servants' quarters for the 100-person staff required to maintain the estate, butlers, maids, cooks, gardeners, chauffeurs, stable hands. Each servant had a uniform. Each had a role. The mansion was not just a home. It was an organism, breathing with clockwork precision. Outside, the grounds stretched for 33 acres. Formal gardens inspired by Versailles. Trimmed hedges shaped into geometric patterns. Fountains spouting crystalline water. Pathways lined with marble statues of Greek gods. A greenhouse for exotic orchids. Stables for horses. A carriage house that later became a garage for automobiles. Widener was an early adopter, owning several luxury cars by 1910. This was Linwood Hall. Perfect. Palatial. A fortress of wealth. But here's the tragedy. Perfection cannot protect against fate. Peter Widener moved into Linwood Hall in 1900, bringing his sons and their families with him. The mansion filled with life. His eldest son, George Dunton Widener, was a sharp businessman who had inherited his father's acumen. George managed the family's transit empire, oversaw investments, ensured the Widener fortune continued to grow. He married Eleanor Elkins, daughter of Peter's business partner William Elkins, uniting two great fortunes. Together, George and Eleanor had 3 children: Harry Elkins Widener, George Dunton Widener Jr., and Eleanor Widener. Harry was Peter's favorite grandson, brilliant, cultured, obsessed with books. He attended Harvard College, graduated in 1907, and became a bibliophile of the highest order. By age 27, Harry had amassed a collection of over 3,300 rare books, including a Gutenberg Bible, first editions of Shakespeare, and illuminated medieval manuscripts. He spent small fortunes at auctions in London, Paris, New York, outbidding museums and collectors twice his age. His dream was to build a library at Harvard, a monument to learning that would bear his name forever. In the spring of 1912, the Widener family traveled to Europe. George wanted to hire a French chef for Linwood Hall. Eleanor wished to shop in Paris. Harry sought rare books. They sailed from New York aboard the luxury liner Mauretania, enjoyed weeks in London and Paris, and on April 10, 1912, boarded the RMS Titanic in Cherbourg, France, for the return voyage. They traveled first class, of course. Suite B, 52, spacious, opulent, befitting their status. Harry was thrilled. He had purchased a rare 1598 edition of Francis Bacon's Essays in London and planned to show it to his Harvard professors upon return. The Titanic was the largest ship in the world, a floating palace of steel and luxury, deemed unsinkable by its builders. For 4 days, the Wideners dined in the first-class restaurant, strolled the promenade deck, socialized with other millionaires, John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidore and Ida Strauss. On the evening of April 14th, Captain Smith hosted a dinner in the a la carte restaurant to honor the Wideners. The menu included oysters, filet mignon, and champagne. Conversation flowed. Laughter echoed off polished wood paneling. At 10 p.m., the dinner ended. George and Eleanor retired to their cabin. Harry stayed up late, reading his Bacon volume by lamplight. At 11:40 p.m., the Titanic struck an iceberg. The collision was not violent. A scraping, grinding sound, as if the ship had brushed against a reef. Most passengers did not panic. Many continue playing cards, drinking in the smoking lounge, sleeping in their cabins. The Wideners dressed calmly, donned life preservers, and went on deck as stewards instructed. Chaos had not yet descended. Women and children were being loaded into lifeboats, but there was no screaming, no rush. The band played ragtime. The ship's lights blazed bright. Eleanor and her maid were placed in Lifeboat 4 on the port side at 1:55 a.m. George and Harry stood on deck, watching. They believed the ship would remain afloat. They believed rescue was imminent. They told Eleanor they would see her soon. The lifeboat was lowered into the black Atlantic, rocking gently in the calm sea. Eleanor looked up at her husband and son, silhouetted against the lights of the doomed vessel. They waved. She waved back. The lifeboat pulled away, rowed by women and crew, moving slowly into the darkness. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic broke in half. The stern rose into the air vertical, hundreds of feet above the water, its massive propellers exposed to the stars. Then it slid beneath the surface with a roar like the end of the world. People screamed. People prayed. People drowned in water, so cold it stopped the heart in minutes. George Dunton Widener was 50 years old. Harry Elkins Widener was 27. Neither survived. Their bodies were never recovered. Eleanor Widener sat in Lifeboat 4 for 2 hours, surrounded by freezing darkness, listening to cries of the dying fade into silence. At dawn, the RMS Carpathia arrived and rescued 706 survivors. Eleanor climbed aboard, wrapped in blankets, her face blank with shock. She asked if George or Harry had been found. No one could answer. News of the Titanic disaster reached Philadelphia on April 15th. Peter Widener was 77 years old. He had built an empire. He had survived wars, depressions, betrayals. But when he learned that his eldest son and beloved grandson had perished, something inside him broke. He wept openly, something he had not done since his wife's death. He paced the empty halls of Linwood Hall, haunted by the enormity of the loss. Money could not bring them back. Power could not reverse time. The mansion suddenly felt obscene. 110 rooms for ghosts. Eleanor returned to Linwood Hall on April 18th. The estate was silent. Servants moved like shadows. The art gallery felt like a tomb. She locked herself in her suite for weeks, refusing visitors, refusing food. She had survived by rowing through the night, but survival felt like punishment. Her husband was gone. Her firstborn was gone. The mansion built to shelter generations had become a mausoleum. In the years that followed, Eleanor poured her grief into charity. She donated $2 million to Harvard University to build the Harry Elkins Widener Memorial Library, the largest university library in the world. It opened in 1915, a monument to her son's love of books. She commissioned Louis Comfort Tiffany to create stained glass windows depicting scenes of learning and knowledge, installed at Linwood Hall and Harvard. She funded hospitals, schools, orphanages, anything to give meaning to meaningless loss. Peter Widener died on November 6, 1915, at the age of 80. His fortune was estimated at $35 million, equivalent to $25 billion today. He was ranked the 29th richest American in history. He left most of his wealth to his surviving son, Joseph Early Widener, and Eleanor's children. But Linwood Hall had lost its soul. The grand dinners ceased. The ballroom fell silent. Joseph inherited the estate, but rarely visited. The staff was reduced. Dust began to settle. Eleanor remarried in 1915 to Dr. Alexander Hamilton Rice, a Harvard professor and explorer. They lived primarily in New York and Newport, returning to Linwood Hall only for holidays. The mansion felt too large, too empty, too full of ghosts. Eleanor died suddenly in Paris on July 13, 1937, at the age of 73, collapsing while shopping. Her body was returned to Philadelphia and entombed in the Widener family mausoleum, where plaques memorialized George and Harry, whose bodies the sea had never released. Over the following decades, Linwood Hall passed through various hands. Joseph Widener donated his father's art collection, over 2,000 paintings, sculptures, and decorative objects, to the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., where they remain today. The mansion was sold in 1944. The new owner was a religious organization. then another owner, then another. Each found the estate too expensive to maintain. The heating bills alone cost tens of thousands annually. Repairs were constant. Vandals broke in. Squatters occupied rooms. The roof leaked. Water damaged frescoes. Marble floors cracked. The swimming pool filled with debris. The gardens turned wild. By the 1990s, Linwood Hall was abandoned. It became an urban legend among Philadelphians. The haunted mansion where a billionaire family had walked away from perfection. Explorers broke in, photographing empty rooms, crumbling ceilings, graffiti-covered walls. YouTube videos documented the decay. The ballroom where 1,000 guests once danced now hosted pigeons. The art gallery that held Rembrandts now held nothing but shadows. In 2023, the Linwood Hall Preservation Foundation purchased the estate for $9 million, funded largely by Scott Bentley, a tech entrepreneur, and his wife Susan. The foundation plans to restore the mansion to its original glory, converting it into a museum and cultural center. Asbestos must be removed. The roof must be replaced. Plumbing, electrical, HVAC systems, all must be rebuilt from scratch. The estimated cost, $50 million. It will take a decade, maybe longer. But the question remains, why did they leave? Why did a family with infinite resources abandon a mansion built to last centuries? The answer is not simple. After the Titanic, Linwood Hall became a monument to loss. Eleanor could not walk its halls without remembering George waving from the deck, Harry reading by lamplight. Peter could not sit in the art gallery without thinking of the grandson who would never inherit it. The mansion was perfect, yes, but perfection is cold. Perfection does not heal wounds. And so they left, one by one, seeking homes that did not echo with the dead. There's a broader lesson here, whispered to the crumbling walls of Linwood Hall. Money can build palaces, but it cannot protect against fate. Power can command empires, but it cannot command the sea. Love can survive tragedy, but it cannot erase memory. The Billionaire Dynasty did not fall because of poor investments or reckless heirs. It fell because tragedy shattered the dream that money could insulate them from the world's cruelty. Today, Linwood Hall stands as America's largest surviving Gilded Age estate, a 110-room monument to ambition and loss. Its restoration is underway. Someday, tourists will walk its halls, marveling at the craftsmanship, imagining the grandeur. They will stand in the ballroom and picture 1,000 guests in silk and diamonds. They will climb the grand staircase and imagine Peter Widener descending to greet senators and kings. But they will not hear what the mansion whispers to those who listen. Even perfection is temporary. Even paradise can be abandoned. And no fortune, however vast, can hold back the tide of time. The rain falls softly on Linwood Hall. Water drips through holes in the ceiling. Dust settles on marble floors. And the ghosts of the dynasty walk the empty corridors, waiting for the living to return and remember.